Welcome everyone on today's live stream. We're going to be talking about is altcoin season near and Bitcoin dumping. So hope all of you are having a wonderful day. Good morning, good afternoon, and good night for many of you, depending on the time that you're watching today's video. So we are going to be talking about a few critical things in the market. As I mentioned, altcoin season / meme coin season, and Bitcoin, is this finally the top, right? We have been seeing a lot of dumping going on with the whole entire crypto market. So we're going to go ahead and see where things are going. But before I do go ahead and get started, let me go ahead and check that we are officially live on my end. So give me 1 second as we do go ahead and make that pivot. So let me check. Looks like we are officially live. Awesome possum. So let me go ahead and pull out my live stream on my phone. And let me go ahead and start sharing that with the community. So yes, it looks like we are officially live. So let me go ahead and share this. How's it going, Happy? Hope you're having a good one today. Thank you for joining me here today. So let's go ahead and share this. We got that out the way. Let's go ahead and share this right here. I apologize if I haven't replied to any messages, by the way. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and get started and talk about the market. Thank you all for all those that are joining me on today's live stream. What does that mean? Let's see. Okay, yeah, we are live. Okay, awesome. So appreciate all of you for joining me on today's live stream. If any of you are looking for an exchange to go ahead and leverage trade on with no KYC, go ahead and check out my partnered Blofin down below in the description. Literally takes less than 3 seconds to go ahead and create an account. So we're going to go ahead and dive deep into, is altcoin season near or is altcoin season coming, right? Are we in altcoin season? So let's go ahead and start off with the main factors that we want to go ahead and pay attention to. We talked about how, Bitcoin dominance is one of the ways we're going to go ahead and find out whether we are entering that altcoin season or not. And as you can go ahead and see right now, looking at the weekly on altcoin season on Bitcoin dominance, you do see that we are currently down. We are falling back down, so which is a really good sign, right? Currently right now, dominance is at around 54%. We did talk about a possibility of a Bitcoin short squeeze, right? Bitcoin actually has been dumping literally these last 2 days, has been just consolidating in this range, which we will be looking at very, very soon. But looking at the dominance on Bitcoin on the weekly, we do see the dominance falling down, meaning we are getting near that sort of altcoin season, right? Looking at the monthly right here, we do see that on April so far, we are with strong dominance on Bitcoin. It looks like it does want to reverse. As I talked about, I did mention that my price target for Bitcoin will be around $85,000, and that will be near the altcoin season in my opinion. That would mean Bitcoin would reach a level of about 70% dominance. In other terms, what I'm trying to say is that if we do see Bitcoin reach that 70% dominance, we could go ahead and expect a Bitcoin run up before we get that altcoin season, meme coin season that we're all been waiting for, right? In my opinion, I do believe we are slightly lacking. Last year around this time, around April, we had Pepe and we had a few other meme tokens actually taking off, right? And it seems like right now we do have a few meme tokens that are also taking off, but they haven't really done anything too crazy besides Brett, right? And that could be of multiple things, maybe because we already had a lot of meme coins run up these last couple days or last couple months, and people are not as excited and people are just waiting for Bitcoin's move. But right now, looking at dominance, as I mentioned, there's a possibility that Bitcoin dominance does push up, meaning we will be seeing Bitcoin touch that last $85,000 range before we see a dip, right? And Bitcoin dominance is kind of giving us that indicator right now. It's still pretty strong. Bitcoin dominance is still strong. Like Bitcoin has fallen, but it hasn't really collapsed, right? And we need to see Bitcoin collapse in order for us to go ahead and start talking about altcoin season, right? I know everybody's excited for altcoin season. I'm excited because that's where you and I are going to make a lot of money, right? I've actually been taking some trades on Bitcoin, shorting Bitcoin, and they've been pretty fun. But besides the point, we'd still see dominance on Bitcoin up, right? Even on the weekly, as I mentioned, we do see slight little bit of red on the market, but nothing too major to say, you know what, altcoin season is here. But what I could go ahead and tell you is that altcoin season is near, and the reason why, I actually came across these two tweets that I definitely want to go ahead and show you. One of them being from Bitcoin Senses, the altcoin market is showing signs of positive consolidation, resentment of the buildup before the major breakout in late 2020 and early 2021. Are we in the brink of another explosive rally? Keep an eye on the charts. And looking at the charts, as you could go ahead and see, it says we were here back on 2020. I'm not sure if any of you could really see the chart really well, but we were back over here, right? And this is where we're currently are at. So we're very, very close to having that very close explosive move to the upside. I apologize if the chart's a little cloudy, but we're here and we're getting close to having that breakout to the upside on the altcoin market. This is the total market cap excluding Bitcoin and ETH. We could go ahead and pull out that chart ourselves. It looks like this is on, I don't know what chart this is on, but we're going to go ahead and look into it right now. Total cap excluding BTC and ETH. So we're going to go ahead and look into that right now. But as you can see, you see this cup and handle pattern being formed, right? So we could go ahead and potentially come down a little bit slightly down before we have that major breakout to the upside. But this is one of the signs that we are getting near some sort of altcoin season, right? Another thing that I found very interesting, this tweet from Bitcoin Senses, again, breaking news, Justin Sun makes a substantial move in crypto space, acquiring approximately 21.5 thousand ETH valued at 67.5 million. Do you think Justin Sun knows that something's coming along? I mean, why would he go ahead and put in that much money on Ethereum, right? The only scenario that I could really think of is a possible altcoin season being near, right? Buying that final dip, if you want to call it, before we have that massive blast off on a lot of these altcoins and everything else, right? Besides Bitcoin. So that is something that I found very, very interesting. The fact that, you know, Justin Sun makes a $67.5 million transaction on Ethereum, or to buy Ethereum. I think that's very, very interesting in my opinion. But as I mentioned, we want to go ahead and keep a look at the charts and see where things are going. As I mentioned, dominance, it's still slightly doing its own thing. And I do think Bitcoin will go ahead and have at least one last final pump. A key area that I'm looking at personally right now on Bitcoin, and as I mentioned, I want Bitcoin to do its thing already, because this thing's just kind of slowing down the market, right? And as you can go ahead and see on the daily, we are seeing this slow bleeding of Bitcoin just consolidating within this range for literally within 30 days. And we're going to be approaching this day of 47 of just consolidation, right? Just boring sideways action, right? I do believe that on Bitcoin on the daily, we could be seeing this major inverse head and shoulders pattern, as I mentioned to a lot of you. So I do expect Bitcoin to possibly slightly fall back down to $57,000. And then we're going to have another initial run up back to 67. And then we're going to have a correction back down to the $61,000 range, with the last final pump right here, I would call it, before we have that major breakout to the upside of around $85,000. And then this is where I believe altcoin season will happen, right? So this is a time, in my opinion, to be loading up on a lot of altcoins and meme tokens. I do believe our top for Bitcoin will be coming soon, but it will definitely take some time, right? It just really depends on how quick the market's going to act to this chart right here. Looking at the daily on Bitcoin, I do believe that we are probably going to do something very similar to this, and this reminds me of the sideways action that we saw back over here. If you look at this is literally identical. Like, I don't know what else to go ahead and show all of you to check this out, but this is literally an identical chart right here that we're currently looking at the moment. And as you could go ahead and see, it's literally almost following the same exact pattern, right? Like literally consolidation, fake out, everybody gets discouraged, Bitcoin's done with, everybody gets excited, and then it just reverses very quickly and then makes its new all-time high, right? So I do believe something very similar is going to happen with Bitcoin. And as I mentioned, dominance is still up. So it definitely gives us a sign that people are still willing to go ahead and hold on to Bitcoin or trade Bitcoin at the moment, right? I'm actually looking for some short positions right now on Bitcoin. I've actually already taken a few short positions. I've actually shared it on my Twitter. But where's it at? I actually entered a small one right here, a small little trade a few hours ago, shorting Bitcoin at 91x leverage with KSEC. I've never used that exchange, but they did give me about $250. Like I just checked my email and he sent me money. So I thought that was really cool. And I was like, you know what, let me go ahead and give the platform a try. So I've been dabbling around with this platform. Maybe a new partnership will be coming with them soon. I'm pretty sure I'm going to reach out to them, see if we can work out a deal for the community, but it's no KYC, which I'd like. Platform is very, very smooth, and you have to have your options open when it comes to exchanges, right? You want to have multiple accounts on different exchanges just in case anything happens. But it looks like Bitcoin will be dumping from these levels. So be careful with this possible fake out, in my opinion. I do think the market is going to get shaken out. And a lot of people are going to be selling a lot of their alts and getting hammered. I mean, we're seeing a lot of FUD right now with meme tokens, especially Brett, which I will make a video in the future, maybe this weekend. But there is something very major right now that's breaking news with Brett and Crash, which we will talk about in a little bit, or maybe I should just save that for another video. But yeah, Bitcoin dominance is still at a point where we haven't fully done its thing yet, and we have to just be patient and see where things go, right? How's it going, Chicago Brew? Hope you're having a good one. Final dip is just dipped. We have been rope-a-doped on some of these memes. I agree with you, bro. Yeah, we have been dipping for a while, and I do believe this is a buying opportunity for most. As I mentioned, I did talk about this thing where we have a lot of these tokens run up very, very quickly without a correction, and I do think that we will still continue to see more correction, right? I don't think there was one time on the stream these last couple of days where I mentioned that we weren't going to correct a lot more. I think Andy on base is going to pump. In my opinion, I think this thing is still doing its own thing. It's still consolidating within this range that I talked about. And I actually made a video on a few days ago, or I think it was actually yesterday. And I talked about this point of control right here using the volume indicator. And I mentioned how this is a strong area of resistance and a strong area of support, right? So this shows us that there's a lot of strong volume within this range. And right now, so far, we are consolidating within this volume, which is, I can't say it's 100% good and I can't say it's 100% bad. But we definitely will be seeing some sort of breakout very soon. As you can see, there's a lot of indecision in the market, but it looks like it's going to be pushing more to the upside, in my opinion. Volume has been slightly picking up. As I mentioned, worst comes to worst on Andy, what we will go ahead and see is we will go ahead and see the structure fall back down to these ranges right here. And I know it might be something none of you want to go ahead and hear, but this is a reality, what we could be expecting, right? I think this is more of a bullish case scenario. I've noticed with Andy, typically when the market's down, it just does good. And we're actually kind of clearly seeing this volume and buying pressure has been coming in. We actually touched that 16 million market cap earlier today or throughout this week. So it's a very bullish sign, right? So I do believe we will be breaking past through this, and we will be approaching anywhere between 60 to 80 million market cap very soon in the next coming weeks. But as I mentioned, if we do go ahead and continue to get rejected as we are right now, we could go ahead and expect Andy to come back down to these ranges right here and potentially even touching down to the zone, which from this top to this bottom, we could be expecting a 60 to an 85% correction, right? So that could be a good thing for many of you. That could be a bad thing if you're looking to swing trade this. As I mentioned with these meme tokens, especially on base, one thing that I'm starting to realize is that they take a lot longer to go ahead and break out, right? They might take 4 or 5 days to consolidate before a major breakout. And I guess you could consider that good or bad. Maybe it's like that because there's not a lot of people yet transacting on base. And it's not compared to Solana, right? Where you see these run-ups happen literally within minutes. You'll see a 3, 4, 5x or a 20x. But what I like about Ethereum or Base is that it takes its time, right? And I think that's a good thing. It kind of sucks. Yes, we got to wait a little bit longer. But I think it's a little bit healthier, especially when a chart moves like this, right? We have been seeing holder count increase on Andy, 21.29 holders. Over 22,000 holders will be reached very soon. But as I mentioned, don't be surprised if we do go ahead and see a rejection down to this resistance, coming back down and entering the zone right here within this range. As I mentioned, that is an 85% correction. Worst comes to worst, we do go ahead and get that correction. And what we will go ahead and see is once we see this correction, we'll just probably see a lot of consolidation within this range before we get the excitement once again in the market, and we start to continue to make those highs back again. I mean, as I mentioned, this is the worst case scenario. We just take a lot longer to have that breakout to the upside, right? This is the worst case scenario. As I mentioned, I don't think it would go any lower than this. I can't guarantee you anything unless like someone really like panics or FUDs and the market falls below support, which is possible. And that's the kind of scary thing when it comes to tokens like this, that it's very, very predictable to tell exactly where the bottom and the top is. But so far, the support and the resistance have been respected pretty well, right? So we are still within this range, as I talked about these last couple days. Even on stream, I did mention that this is a strong area of resistance and a very strong area of a lots of volume, right? This is a range where a lot of volume is being found. And so far, we have been holding this range pretty good. I mean, nothing to go ahead and celebrate just yet, but we are seeing some sort of uptrend. As you could go ahead and see on the 4 hourly, you do see this uptrend of it just climbing back up, staircasing on its way up. And I do believe we will be having that breakout very soon, where we're just going to go ahead and see that thing just rocket, and we might potentially still see all these other memes taking a hit, right? As I mentioned, we have grown in holder count. We are seeing a lot of buying pressure still, which is a good sign. Currently right now looking at the, what is this? What is, let me check. Right now looking at the 5-minute chart, we have 5 buys, 1 hour, 37, 18 sells, 206 hour, 204 buys, 155 sells. On the 24 hours, we see 811 buys and 458 sells. So it seems like it's a little bit pushing towards the bullish sign, in my opinion. Still a little bit of 50-50 with $422,000 in volume. We did talk about the fact that they are also having some influencers on board like Joe Perry, and we also have the Bull Runners, I believe they're called. So there has been a little bit more people shilling into Andy, which is a good sign. It's what we've been doing before these major influencers stepped in, but this is a good sign. This means definitely more people are going to jump into Andy, and we definitely have seen the growth, right? Especially with Coinbase integrating their smart wallets, which will be coming very soon, I'm guessing. And hopefully that's within the time when we see this major run up with a lot of these altcoins. So that's my TA for Andy. We're going to go ahead and talk about other tokens right now at the moment. But let's go ahead and talk about Bitcoin and what we could be expecting for Bitcoin in the next coming days. And as well, what is the market doing overall, right? So looking at the daily right now on Bitcoin, as I mentioned, I do believe an inverse head and shoulders pattern will be coming. So I do expect this kind of range, and I do expect Bitcoin to fall back down to $58,000, where we will have a major squeeze to the upside and push Bitcoin even further, right? If we go ahead and take a look at the liquidation maps, we could go ahead and see where a lot of liquidations are going to be met for Bitcoin. And as we could go ahead and see, there's a lot of liquidations within the range of around 63,468. And those will be triggered. Over 24.82 million will be triggered on that end, right? And then we have some liquidation points coming back down to 62. We have over 14.63 million. And then a little bit lower, we have, what is it? Is that the same one? No, we have another 23.34 million at 62,757. So what I believe is going to happen is I think this is just going to be a liquidity grab. They're just going to go ahead and stop out all the longs. So everybody that is leveraged long on Bitcoin right now, they're going to go ahead and wreck them, push the price action all the way down, the market bakers, and then they're going to go ahead and reverse it all the way back up, pushing Bitcoin to $85,000. Then by this zone, everybody's going to think Bitcoin's going to go up to $120,000 to $100,000 plus, and then they're going to go ahead and short this all the way down. And this is where we should be seeing a beginning of altcoin slash meme coin season, right? That's if this is the bullish case scenario, right, for Bitcoin, that we do see this kind of movement coming in. And as I mentioned, Bitcoin dominance is showing that Bitcoin is still strong as far as interest with a lot of people, right? Even this chart right here says it with blockchaincenter.net. You could go ahead and head over to altcoin season index. And as you can see right here on the monthly, it does say that we are still in Bitcoin month and we are actually getting that increase in dominance on Bitcoin still, right? So unfortunately, in order for us to see that altcoin season, we need to reach the 75%. And we're actually not nowhere near it, at least on the monthly. And on the yearly, we do see that Bitcoin, that we are slightly climbing towards that altcoin season at the 75. But right now it's showing a little bit more dominance into Bitcoin as opposed to altcoin season, right? So we still have a few more weeks to, I think worst comes to worst, this plays out as I mentioned, where we see Bitcoin do that fake out reversal and then we just have it pumped to $85,000. If this is the top for Bitcoin, which I hope, I kind of hope, but I kind of don't, because I do believe that this is going to be a nice little run up for a lot of us. What I do think, let's say if this was the top for Bitcoin, let's say $73,000, and that was the top, that means that as we see Bitcoin fall back down to around the $58,000 range and we lose the support, ideally, if we fall back below and we close below $58,000, that's going to go ahead and give me an indication, in my opinion. Also, keep in mind, this could be a fake out, that we will go ahead and trend back down even lower, and we will be seeing Bitcoin come back down to these levels of around $42,000. And if we measure this top to this bottom, that would leave us with a correction of about 44%, bringing us back to this level of support before we had that major run up around this range. The good thing about that means that altcoin season slash meme coin season is around the corner, right? So I guess regardless, depending on the way you look at this, this could give you an indication that if Bitcoin's top is not in, you still have a little bit more time to go ahead and load up on your favorite altcoins and meme tokens. But if you're already fully loaded on your altcoins and meme tokens, then prepare for altcoin slash meme coin season coming in. But as I mentioned, dominance in Bitcoin is still being shown. And I can't tell you 100% that the confidence in altcoin season is here just yet, right? Let's go ahead and take a look at the DXY. As we talked about the DXY, every time we do see the DXY trend up, we technically usually go ahead and see crypto or Bitcoin go down, right? And that's actually why we finished today on a Friday with the market being slightly red, at least for crypto, because of the DXY doing that slight little push to the upside. But as I mentioned, I did mention that there's a possibility that the DXY will try to retest this 107.305 or the 500 and then get rejected and come back down, meaning that we're just going to go ahead and see more consolidation on Bitcoin, more sideways action before Bitcoin decides to do what it wants to do, right? I do think eventually we will go ahead and get rejected on the DXY within these ranges, and then we will go ahead and then see the DXY come back down, causing Bitcoin to go to that $85,000 range if the Bitcoin top is not in just yet, right? So the DXY, we're going to go ahead and see where that takes us in the next week. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the US 100, which is the NASDAQ. It gives us an indicator of where the market's going. But before I do go ahead and do this, I want to go ahead and read the comment Chicago went ahead and posted. Would have been nice to have withdrew to sell BTC at that $73,000 top. Yeah, bro, you could do that with your depending on the exchange you're using. You can go ahead and put a limit sell on that. But yeah, as I mentioned, I think personally, in my opinion, Bitcoin's top is not in yet. And you know how much I'm like hoping for Bitcoin to crash. Like I want Bitcoin to crash already because that means you and I are going to make a lot of money on altcoin season and meme coin season. So I'm like desperate. I don't want to use the word desperate, but I'm desperate for Bitcoin to do its thing because the market has been kind of slow, right? It's kind of depressing during these times in the market when it's not like super hyped up where everybody's making a lot of money. There's obviously still people making money, but right now it's not as a hyped up of a market, right? Especially for me personally, when I'm in this market, like I'm in this market all 24/7 practically, right? So when I'm seeing this kind of sideways action, not only is it a little bit harder to enter trades, but it's also not as exciting to be in the market when it's just very, very slow and it's taking its time to decide where things are going to go, right? But looking at the US 100, which is the NASDAQ, we did talk about these last couple days on my stream. I think it was about 2 days ago because I didn't stream yesterday. We did talk about this RSI crossing and us seeing a reversal on the US 100 approaching past this $1,800 range to go ahead and signal some sort of bullishness into the market, right? So we actually did see that, and it's actually nice to see the RSI actually cross, and we actually did see the US 100 close green today. So now the question is the US 100 going to be able to break past its range? If the US 100 does break past its range, we will go ahead and be seeing the US 100, the whole entire stock market, continue to make new all-time highs, specifically the tech sector, right? So we are a few days away, as I mentioned. I'm not sure if any of you remember my last stream, the last couple of days ago, for any of those that did catch me on that stream. I did talk about, and I did mention, expect some sort of reversal by the end of the month leading into the second week of May, right? And if we go ahead and see this with the US 100, that is clearly giving us an indicator of exactly what I'm saying. So we should be seeing some sort of signal of where the market's going within the next week, I would say. By next week, by Wednesday, Thursday, we should get a better indicator of where the market's heading, right? Because there's only a few days left, not only for the month to be over, but also for this breakout to happen. Like, is it going to break through it, or is it going to get rejected, play around with it for a little bit, and then have that major breakout? We don't know. So I would say give it about towards the second week of May, we should be having some sort of activity into the market, but we should know by the end of this month of where the market is heading, right? When it comes to this market, it's all about patience. I know it sucks. It's boring. We all want those 20 to 100 X's, but right now this could be a give or take on a buying opportunity or not, depending on the way you look at the market, right? What I was saying is, who knew that $73,000 where it tapped out? The thing is with Bitcoin, and when it comes to TA, it's very predictable where a lot of these tops and bottoms are. A lot of people say they're not predictable, but they're pretty predictable. And as I mentioned, like typically before we have a massive run up to the upside, we always see this sort of consolidation with a fake out. And these are liquidity grabs. So what the big whales and institutional buyers are doing is that they're wrecking out as much people as they can before the next breakout to the upside. So this is very, very common. As I mentioned, we could go back, and it did this back over here within this range of the ETF. And if you go back to the news, it's very freaking similar. I wish I had a chart of somebody saying this, but this is during the talks of the ETF, right? And I told everybody on my previous channel to go ahead and be careful, because everybody was screaming for 100K Bitcoin. And I told all of you, guys, 100K Bitcoin is not going to happen right now. It's going to happen eventually, but it's not going to happen right now. Before we do that, we will go ahead and correct. It's going to be a buy the rumor, sell the news, right? And that's exactly where that top was. So for most people that were thinking that the Bitcoin halving was going to be a bullish thing, I told a lot of you too as well that it's going to be a buy the rumor, sell the news, where everybody thinks that because of the Bitcoin halving, we're going to go up higher. We're actually going to go ahead and do the opposite, right? And that's actually what we had in the market. We had the hype of the Bitcoin halving, and this is the reason why we dumped. If you actually go back into all the news that we had, leading into the Bitcoin halving, we had this Iran and Israel whole entire attack, missiles. I don't even know what the heck happened, man. I'm gonna be honest with you, but I know a lot of shenanigans happened within the week leading into the Bitcoin halving. Like, is that a coincidence? Think about it. There's no coincidence that the SEC was going after Uniswap, and all of this stuff was going on around after MetaMask, going all through all this BS to go ahead and shake up the market, right? It's more predictable than what people think. And unfortunately, I don't want to say that it's 100% predictable because it's really not. We don't know what news will come out tomorrow that might shake out the market or pump the market. But that's what we have to be very, very careful with, right? So that's why for me personally, as I mentioned, there's no coincidence that these two major events printed a very similar pattern, right? This is the Bitcoin halving. As you could go ahead and see, if I was to go ahead and get my ruler, we see this consolidation within this range of around literally 44 days before we saw that major breakdown to the downside. And if we go ahead and compare this, this is about before we reach that top 41 days, right? So it's almost nearly identical of how many days it took to consolidate to really start making a move within this range right here of the Bitcoin halving talks. As I said, 37 to 42 days, depending on where you count it. And then same thing right here. We have about 44 days, depending on where you count it, 42 days. So it's literally identical of how many days it took for Bitcoin to consolidate before it broke to the downside and made a major move, right? As I mentioned, this is literally like, I don't know how more identical we could get to this. It looks very, very similar. Even with the RSI, we come back down to these levels right here. You see the same pattern forming right here as well. So we're going to go ahead and see where things go. As I mentioned, regardless of the fact, I think it's bullish for both of us. If the market does fall right here and this was the top, then altcoin season and meme coin season are actually closer than a lot of us expect. If Bitcoin does a major fake out where it just dumps all the way down to like 57, it does a short squeeze to the upside, then we will be expecting $85,000. And that just means it's going to take us a little bit longer for us to get within that range. So expect altcoin season and meme coin season to start mid-June or late June. Officially, if Bitcoin does push to that $85,000 range, right? So that means we will have June, July, and slightly towards the end of August where meme coin season will run up, right? So we're going to see where things go on. Maybe the start of meme coin season starts late May. But I'm hoping that we could go ahead and start middle of May, late May, like towards the end of May, leading into June and July. That would be very, very bullish. And typically, as I mentioned, that is when we do have that small little meme coin season, usually every time leading into summer, right? A lot of people like to call it DeFi summer for a reason. That's typically when the dominance of Bitcoin has now finally been reached and the interest is no longer there anymore. The interest is more into the memes and the altcoins. So we're patiently waiting. As I mentioned, it depends on the kind of view you have here. If you're leverage trading like myself, regardless of where the market goes, there's still opportunities to make money, right? I'm actually patiently waiting to continue to short Bitcoin. And I was actually looking, and I'm a little disappointed, right? Because I was patiently waiting for myself to enter this short position. But what ended up happening was that I was getting ready for this stream. So by the time it hit my target to enter my short, it was already a little too late. But I was looking to enter my short right here. And as you can see, it tested it right here, consolidated, and it had that major breakdown to the downside, right? So right now, I think Bitcoin's probably going to go slightly back up to that $63,000 range. So I might consider entering another short if I have the time to go ahead and do that today. But I do think we will be seeing a little bit more sideways action on Bitcoin for the next coming days before we actually see a major reversal in the market. But I am looking to go ahead and continue to short Bitcoin. Hopefully I can enter a nice little trade right here. Overall, my zone that I'm looking to enter a trade on Bitcoin is if we lose the $62,000 range. I do want to go ahead and enter this short. This is actually my short right here. If you look at this range right here, this is where I was looking to short Bitcoin from this range all the way down. So this is actually my buying opportunity. But I'm going to wait for Bitcoin to slightly climb back up to that $63,000, $338 range. And hopefully I can enter Bitcoin short right here, shorting Bitcoin, hopefully all the way down to this range back over here, $57,000, which would be a very nice freaking short. That'd be a 9% move to the downside. And with leverage, that is freaking insane. Nice little profits. And then catching that bottom with that reversal is also going to be nice. Catching that bottom from, like, let's say $57,000 all the way up to, 66, that's going to be a 15% move on Bitcoin. So as I mentioned, typically when we do go ahead and see the market dump, it's going to fall down very quickly, and it's also because of the liquidations that are near here. So it looks like we're about to trigger 63,468, some short liquidations there. I think they might have already triggered it. If not, we do have some liquidations even back down here to $62,000 and at that 62,700. So there's still a lot of liquidation that happened, and I do believe that that's kind of the reason why I'm also short, that within this range right here, once we see Bitcoin right here, this is where a lot of liquidity is going to be triggered, a lot of liquidations, and it's going to cause Bitcoin to dump very quickly down to this range. So it just so happens to be over a weekend, so there's no coincidence that we do see Bitcoin dump and a lot of panicking happening over this weekend, right? So be very, very careful. As I mentioned, this is just me showing you worst case scenario, I guess bullish case scenario, Bitcoin doesn't do any of that and just pumps and we hit $85,000 sooner than what we expect. But I am looking to be entering some shorts. It's giving us more signs of weakness in the market and a lot of fear. So if you're looking to go ahead and trade on a new exchange, go ahead and check out Blofin exchange down below in the description. Similar to Bybit, it requires no KYC and literally takes less than 3 seconds to create an account. You can use all the way up to 100x leverage to trade either Bitcoin, Ethereum, or any of these altcoins or meme tokens using Blofin. As I mentioned, I am using KSEC right now at the moment to go ahead and enter some positions, and until I should be doing a partnership with them very soon. But I'm checking out this platform right now at the moment, and I'll let you guys know how if I get any nice little trades leading onto the weekend. But as I mentioned, we're seeing more selling pressure than buying pressure, right? Let's go ahead and take a look into the meme tokens and talk about what I'm bullish on the meme tokens. Boom, market just went lower. Yeah, dude, it's crazy. There's this one thing I used to have that people used to make fun of me. It used to be called the John effect, where I talked about the market and it would freaking dump, man. We do see Brit over 42% down right now at the moment, which could be a buying opportunity for many. As I mentioned, it just depends on the way you're looking at the market. But even Bret alone is down over 30%. A lot of fear is going on into Bret, and I'm going to go ahead and talk to you and let you know the reasons why. For all of those that are in crypto and are in the space like myself, already know the news as to why there's a lot of selling pressure into Bret. And then this is going to be one of those where it might be bad for many, but it might be a buying opportunity for a lot of us, right? So let's go ahead and take a look. If you're still following me still here, what is going on with Bret? Why is it correcting 40%, and why we might see a lot of these Bret derivatives also take a dip, right? So as a lot of you know, and I've been hearing this for a while, the word in the streets, or the word in crypto, is that Crash, the one that has been promoting Bret like crazy, talking about his crazy portfolio being over millions of dollars, over 5 million, how he turned $15,000 into 1 million, $5 million. The talk is that Bret is actually the founder, or not Bret. Crash is actually the founder of Bret, right? It turns out, as you can go ahead and see, this guy Bandit, so Crash is the person behind Bret. He has been sending supply to a lot of influencers to promote his coin, and has been sharing it on his socials as an innocent investor without disclosing that he's behind it. Now he's in a crisis mode because his contract got exposed for having whitelist for who could buy. And apparently this is what's going on right now. I've been hearing this since the beginning, before Brett took off. I was hearing that Crash was possibly the founder, the dev behind Brett, which to me kind of sounds like it makes total sense. I mean, if you go ahead and take a look at Brett itself, the liquidity is at 6 million, right? So you were to say, well, John, why is he pushing and trying to promote it very, very heavily? Well, the thing is, in order for him to cash out his goal, which is 50 million plus market cap and above, he really can't because there isn't enough liquidity, right? And if he was to go ahead and cash out right now, he easily could cash out 3 million in liquidity. He'll be fine, right? But his goal is 50 million and above. So in order for him to really cash out that 50 million, more people would need to buy this in order for the liquidity to go up and more people willing to put up liquidity, right? So it would make total sense from the beginning when he was talking about, how much he was up. If you were to compare the liquidity, he was never really able to cash out that money, right? So it would make sense for him to promote it very heavily. Do I see anything bad with it if he's the actual creator? No, I think that's actually bullish. I mean, Crash, I think regardless of the fact what people say, Crash has been around for a while, right? And I've been following Crash for a cool minute. Whether he has inside scoop, or he's part of the cabal, as everybody says, I think this guy's a pretty smart guy, unless he's really fooling everybody, and he's really not. But I've been following him for a while, right? I've been seeing his plays. So for him to promote Brett as crazy and to be like a crazy coincidence that he might be the founder of Brett, it doesn't surprise me whatsoever. Is that bearish to me? Not really. I think if anything, it's kind of bullish. I guess the fact that he's pushing out that, he was the first one to figure out, shilling the project early on and making all these millions of dollars, I guess lying to people is kind of a little bit effed up. But I mean, let's be honest, which influencer in the space doesn't lie all the time? There's a lot of these influencers that shill a lot of these tokens and are okay with it. You know what I mean? This is the reason why I personally don't follow any influencers in this space when it comes to buying tokens, because I know a lot of them are getting paid heavily. The whole entire thing, and the thing that's even more sketchier is that if he actually is the founder of Brett and he's pushing Brett, one thing that I find very sketchy is that they promoted FOMO not that long ago, a few days ago, which was supposed to be a pre-sale, and Brett, the original account of Brett, actually went ahead and promoted FOMO, right? And it was a total rug project. It dumped. A lot of people were asking him like, hey, bro, you're promoting, Brett. Like, how do you not know if Brett is associated with FOMO in any chance? And he's like, dude, I don't care. It was just like kind of denying it instantly. Like he kind of seemed like he was like guilty about it. But as I mentioned, he's like, oh, I don't care. You could go back to the recordings. One of the guys that is exposing a lot of these crypto influencers goes by the name of Caesar Calls, which I've been following him for a while. And it's actually quite surprising how a lot of people are now waking up and they're like, oh, wow, that makes sense. But I kind of figured this out very, very quickly. And it was with a few influencers in this space that I realized that was usually a top signal, if that makes any sense. A few of you might already know who I'm talking about. But there's a lot of influencers on Twitter that I just follow just to know not to go ahead and buy, or it might be a time to exit my project. And one of those being is Henoch. A lot of people already know about Henoch and already feel a certain way about him. There's a group of him like Henoch, Your Pop, Stecky, that they're all pretty much together. Apparently Stecky is no part of it, but this little group that they have going on, they every token they usually pump always comes down very, very quickly, right? So the talk is that this guy is pushing to his followers as exit liquidity, right? He promotes a project, he dumps on his followers, and that's how he makes his money, right? Or what the talk also is that a lot of these influencers are actually the developers of the project. They're part of the team, and they're not really buying the project, right? So in order to keep in mind, in order to go ahead and make money in this side of crypto, you need to be having someone that's willing to buy your token or the underlying asset, right? So it would just make sense why a lot like Hinoc or a lot of these other influencers, and I'm not just going after him because there's a whole boatload of influencers, but I could go ahead and say confidently in a project that I was in, and some people brought it up. Pepe 2.0, literally as soon as they became ambassadors, Hinoc with your pop, literally the project topped in, and it just started dumping ever since then, right? So, and they're quick to move on project to project. I don't blame them, as I mentioned, as being in this space as an influencer. The only two ways you make money, it's either shilling freaking meme tokens that most of them are rugs, you know, that I guess you could go ahead and take that how you want it, or the other way is being a trader. And the reality is that a lot of these influencers in crypto are not traders, right? As you can see, I follow him for this reason. I follow Hinoc not to go ahead and listen to his plays, but I follow Hinoc to know what not to freaking buy when it comes into tokens, right? And it looks like right now he's heavily pushing Brett. So this whole entire narrative of what they're saying that, you know, Crash is part of the kebab, and that he's part, you know, with all these other influencers shilling his tokens. In my opinion, I don't think he was ever part of that. I think he just ran into it with Brett. I could be wrong. Maybe all the other projects he promoted, he was part of the team and he really didn't take off. But in my opinion, I don't think Crash was part of it till just recently, right? So I think Crash just got into this whole entire, I guess if you want to call it the kebab with influencers on Twitter to go ahead and dump on their followers as exit liquidity, right? So not saying you can't make money on a lot of these projects, but the thing is that a lot of these influencers do not go ahead and let you know whether they're part of a team or if they're being paid, right? For me personally, I think it's all about transparency. You have to go ahead and be upfront whether you're being paid for these projects. The projects that I've been promoting so far, I'm not getting paid on. And if I ever do, I'll definitely go ahead and keep that in mind, and I will go ahead and push it and let everybody know. But it's nothing new in this space. If you've been in this market since last bull run, this shouldn't be a surprise to you, right? Influencers using their following as exit liquidity. We've seen this with celebrities. One recent one a while back ago, I guess you could consider a recent one, was when Young Thug and what was his name? Gunna ended up releasing their own coin, and it dumped. It was a liquidity grab as well. It was a rug pull. So like it's not uncommon for a lot of these celebrities and influencers to use their influence as exit liquidity for them to profit. I think it has been going on, and not just only in the industry of crypto, but in a lot of industries. So I don't know why a lot of people are surprised. As I mentioned, Crash possibly being the dev for Brett, does it surprise me? Not really. Do I care? Not really. Do I think it's bearish? Probably temporary, yes. And the reason why I'm going to go ahead and show you that as well is because he actually just got listed and partnered with Mexi and Bybit, right? So now they're actually offering futures contracts where you could go ahead and leverage all the way up to 25x. So with that being said, I think the market's going to dump a lot for Brett. We could go ahead and see a massive dump. We already seen, as I mentioned, from this top to this bottom, over a 48% correction. Do I think it's because of this FUD? I think part of it is, but I think most of it is because he just enabled futures trading, right? So whether Crash is part of the team or not, one thing that we do see very interesting right now is that we're seeing a lot of people attacking Crash, right? For me personally, I don't see a problem with him being the dev. It seems like a lot of people in crypto are mad because he's not being transparent, but I think they're more mad because he blew up. He blew up as an influencer, kind of almost seems like he came out of nowhere, but in reality, Crash has been around for a while. I've been following him for a while. I really like his thesis and his analysis when it comes to a lot of things. But I think it's more of jealousy that's going on right now in the space, that they're purposely fudding Brett. If he's part of the team, or just even if he's not part of the team, I think they're just fudding his bag in general, right? Is this any surprise that influencers do this? To me, no. I've been in this space. I've been behind the scenes, so I really know what goes on in the space. A lot of you might not, but to me, this doesn't surprise me. I really don't care. We've seen a lot of influencers doing it time and over again. I think the only reason why they're really harsh on him right now is because he's made a lot of money, and I think people are just jealous. I think these influencers are just jealous that he's growing very, very quickly. As an influencer, he's getting a lot of exposure, he's getting a lot of attention, and I think that's what people are mostly mad about. I don't think it's really trying to be ethical, man. A lot of these people that are trying to call him out have done a lot of shady stuff themselves. So it's like everybody's pointing the fingers at everybody but themselves, right? So this guy literally went from like 59 to 69,000 followers within the last couple weeks to 106,000 followers, right? So I do think this guy's going to continue to blow up, and I think that's really what it is. A lot of these influencers are mad with what he's bringing to the table and what he's doing, and as I mentioned, whether he's part of the team, I don't care, bro. Good job on him on having a successful project. It's very difficult to have a successful project, right? You've seen a lot of these influencers try to do their own project and they fail. I've launched a few projects myself with a few friends, and it's very, very difficult. It's very, very stressful, and I think it actually takes a lot more money to push a project than to really have it profitable. You need to put in a lot of money, right? So regardless of the fact, I don't think we could go ahead and neglect the fact that Brett has been getting a lot of attention. But I think mostly the FUD alongside with them being listed on Bybit and Mexi is what's causing this dump. For me personally, I'm going to go ahead and see if I can enter some trades on Mexi because of this selling pressure. And I think realistically, man, it's going to suck. But I do think this thing's probably going to dump another 90%. And that's going to shake out the market, right? So it is definitely going to cause a lot of FUD, but it's mostly going to be due to the fact of leverage. So I don't think there's no coincidence that this FUD is being created while we're seeing leverage options being open for Mexi and Bybit on Brett, right? So we're going to go ahead and see where things go, man. It's quite interesting where the market's heading. As I mentioned, for me personally, I'm going to go ahead and be entering some short positions on Mexi. Hopefully more exchanges do this, but I'm looking to go ahead and transfer some funds into Mexi just to go ahead and trade Brett, man. Let's see if they have Brett. Oh, they actually do have Brett right here too, man. They actually have Brett on KSEC. So we're actually going to go ahead and short this, man. Like we're going to go ahead and short this. Like, I don't care. Look at that. Look how low it has been dumping, right? I'm going to enter a short at around 0.042, 0.4242. So we're gonna go ahead and enter some leverage positions, man. We're gonna go ahead and short the F out of this, man. Like, it sucks, it is what it is, but we're here to make money, man. We don't care where a token freaking goes. If it goes to the top, if it goes to the bottom, we're gonna go ahead and short this, and hopefully this plays off pretty well for us, right? So we're gonna go ahead and see if we could go ahead and catch a nice little short trade on this. We're going to go ahead and enter at around, I would say we can enter at 41.89, 41.89. We're going to go ahead and enter some positions. I'm going to go ahead and start off with a small little position in my portfolio. I'm going to be shorting about $57 first on 91x leverage. The reason why I start off very low is to go ahead and get a feel of the market and see if my position is going in my direction. And if it goes against my direction, I only lose a little bit of money, right? If I see the play going in my direction, I'm going to go ahead and load up more into my position, right? But Also keep in mind, because it is a meme token, it's very, very volatile. So when it comes to entering a lot of these leverage positions, you have to be very, very careful, especially with meme tokens. A very quick way to make money, but a very fast way to also lose money. So I'm hoping I can enter this short position. I think it's going to go and dump a lot lower, in my opinion. Maybe this is the bottom. I mean, we are seeing a lot of buying pressure. So maybe I'm wrong, and maybe this is the bottom for Brett, but this is the reason why I'm only putting in a small position in my portfolio. If I am wrong, I'm just going to go ahead and go with the trend. I'm not going to go ahead and fight against it. I'm short right now. I mean, honestly, you should have been shorting the market right here. This is where you should have been shorting the market, at this bottom with that 50% retracement. But it looks like right here we will go ahead and see a reversal, and we might see a pump back up. But I do think, in my opinion, we might see some sort of rejection within this range right here, where I'm hoping to enter my trade, right? This is where I'm hoping to enter my trade, at this range right here. And we use this tool, the path. I'm going to enter my trade within this range right here, and then we're going to see it dump back down to over here, I think. So I do think we still are left with another possible 70% correction on Brett, for the fear that's going on right now, right? As I mentioned, the open leverage, man, that could have been like almost the worst thing you could have done for a token, is at open leverage, because typically with a lot of these exchanges, open leverage to these tokens, they usually dump for a few days before we actually see some sort of bullish movement. So I think mid to short term, leading into altcoin season, we might see Brett take a little breather, but it could be a good buying opportunity, which I will be loading up in myself. Let's see. Chicago says, it is not jealousy. Crash is a prick. We hear it in his videos, especially his ex post. Yeah, I agree, dude. He does have this very strong persona of his, which I think it's comical. But hearing from Caesar Calls, as I mentioned, if you go ahead and type in Caesar Calls on YouTube, he's exposing everybody in the crypto industry right now, man. He's exposing everybody. All your favorite top influencers in this space on Twitter, he's exposing everybody. And to me, it's like, I guess is good for what he's doing, because he's just trying to go ahead and like wake everybody up. But I'm not surprised to any of this. And this is the reason why I now stick to the charts and I tell you what my honest truth and opinion is, because I've been wrecked last bull run with a lot of these influencers, specifically the ones on YouTube, right? So this list that you see right here of look, Henoch, Your Pop, like I already knew this, man. Like I didn't even have to see a video of him making this. This just confirms that I was right. And I've known this for the last couple months, because I followed a lot of these top influencers and I looked at their plays and I analyzed them. I saw when they would call these tokens, I saw how they would react, and I stayed away from them. Right? So like, to me, it was very easy to analyze. To most people that just want to come into space and make hundreds of thousands of dollars very quickly, I'll be honest with you, meme tokens is the best way to get wrecked. It's the best way to lose money, because a lot of these tokens will go to zero, and a lot of these tokens are heavily manipulated by a lot of these influencers. And that's kind of the reason why I made that pivot in my trading journey into leverage, because yes, there's manipulation here, but I don't have to worry about Henoch or Your Pop dumping my bags on me or pumping it up, right? Because they don't have control of that market. And with meme tokens, it's literally a gamble, guys. So even with the tokens that we're in, I'm not saying these are non-gambles. They're gambles. They're 100% gambles. Andy is a gamble. All these tokens we're in, they're gambles. They're just higher probability plays, right? They're just a higher probability gamble, if you want to call it. But just like anything's a gamble, right? So with Crash, apparently from what I was hearing, it's a fake persona that he throws on. And this is a crazy part. Apparently he's part of Andrew Tate's freaking course thing. What is it? Hustlers University. And so are a couple other guys on crypto. And apparently what what Andrew Tate talks about in Hustlers University. Supposedly, I don't know this. I'm not in his course. I'm probably gonna go ahead and dab in his course to see what's really happening there. But apparently, like, there's a group of people who are in Andrew Tate's course, and they're being taught how to talk to people to gain more exposure. So apparently, the way Crash talks, which pisses off a lot of people, has been taught from like Andrew Tate. Like, he's been learning that from Andrew Tate's group. Because apparently that's what they teach you. They teach you how to do what Crash is doing, apparently. So apparently Crash is just a character that they put up, just like Andrew Tate. The way, if you've noticed, it's a very similar style Tate, Crash, and a lot of these other influencers talk. They talk very, very similar. They kind of flex on you and kind of like put you down in a way. And they make it seem like they're way better than you are. By showcasing, flexing this money, flexing this kind of status. And it kind of goes back. Like, if you actually look into this, you're like, oh, that kind of makes sense where this persona comes in. So it would make sense that a lot of these guys are being taught from Andrew Tate's course. So I don't know how true it is. As I mentioned, if you actually watch a lot of these videos, it makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of freaking sense that a lot of these crypto influencers are learning from the tactics of Andrew Tate, and that's the reason why they're blowing up and they're making money. They're making money by, I guess, talking down on people, if you want to call it. Chicago says Caesar has insights as he has hosted many of these devs and teams pimping their tokens and projects, which many have failed, rarely meeting the what was proposed or shielded by the project's promoter. Yeah, Caesar has been around for a while, man. Caesar Calls has been around for a while. I've known of him. I've never actually really looked into his plays. I know people that are very close to him. Like, I know some people that I've talked that are in Caesar's Calls team. So as I mentioned, man, it's all about who you know in this space, and a lot of people are very, very connected. And crypto is a lot more centralized than what people even think or seem to believe, right? So, just keep that in mind, guys. This is the reason why I would suggest everybody to understand how this market moves, how the charts move, how all of this really moves. Then you'll start taking a lot of that stress out and relying on these influencers that have no freaking idea what they're talking about. And they're just being shilled to promote a project, right? So it's not something that's uncommon in the space. It's just something you just have to be aware of. And it's an eye-opening, man, for sure. It's an eye-opener with what's going on. But I'm looking to short Brett. We're going to go ahead and see where this goes. Hopefully we can go ahead and make some money and short this. I don't want to say to zero because I don't think it's going to go to zero, but I definitely do think, in my opinion, as the rest of the world starts to wake up right now, they're going to be probably panicking and dumping their freaking Brett, dude. I think Brett's probably going to be the chosen token still, in my opinion. I don't think it's going to go down. But as I mentioned, I think it's more of a hate thing. People are just jealous from the way I look at it, as I mentioned. I do think there's some questionable acts on Crash, but I also think there's a lot of questionable acts on a lot of people in the crypto space. So for me personally, I really don't care. I could care less what any other influencer is doing. I'm more focused on what I'm doing and, what we could do as a community. But dude, I hope a lot of people start to wake up and really know the reality of this space in crypto, man. It's very, very manipulated. It's very, very controlled. And it's definitely a group of people and a group of teams that are running this space. And that's the reality, man. So I hope more people probably they wake up to a lot of this and they start to realize what's really going on. But until then, we'll see where things go. As I said, I don't care. There's no surprise. I really don't care what these influencers are doing. I just hope this is a warning to a lot of you, and a lot of you start to realize what's really going on in the space, and maybe a lot of you start to wake up and realize that there's an easier solution to this market, and this is understanding charts. If you understand charts, you'll understand the direction of the market, right? So with that being said, I hope all of you have a great rest of your weekend, and I'll catch all of you onto the next one. Make sure to go ahead and use my links